I welcome you all to the next lecture in our lecture series for NET JRF preparation. Today we have among us for our lecture Dr. Pallavi Sharma Goyal ma'am. She is she is currently the assistant professor for English at the government SMSPG College, Shivpuri. She completed her PhD on the topic, the theme of rebel in William Shakespeare's tragedies. She has published 20 papers in national journals and 2 papers in international journals. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Adila. Am I
Ma'am,
audible?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, I now request you to begin the lecture.
Okay, Adila. Thank you so much. First of all, greetings to everybody. I would like to pay my special thanks to Professor Chaturvedi sir, who has provided me this opportunity. And as you know that today's lecture is, first of all, I would like to share my screen with all of you. Topic is English in India, history and evolution. And we are going to discuss only about the pre-independent era. What has happened, how Britishers came, and why English has become so important for each one of us. So first of all, I would like to start by giving a brief definition of language. As you know that English is a language, and what is language? Language, it's a purely human thing and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas. Why we say that language is purely human? Because till now, till today, although scientists has done so many experiments to analyze the languages of different types of animals, the language of whales, or the chirping of birds, or the buzzing sound of beetles and all, but even now today they have not given a symbolical expression of their language. So till this date, this definition of language is applicable or can be applicable to humans only. And it's through English or through our language we express our emotions, we express our ideas and desires and aspirations and all in all, and it's a voluntary thing. So it's a brief definition of language. Then why and how English entered inside our country. So English as a language in India entered with the arrival of the Britishers on our coast, on the Indian coast, and it has a history of more than 300 years. And today we can say that it has become a associate language, but it is the most important language of India. Then why it was very needful for Britishers to implement their language in the land of India. First of all, the growth of the English language to such a dominating position in the linguistic map of the world owes to some extent to the rise of England as a major colonial power. It means, what does it express? It means that with the upliftment of English people or the Britain during from the reign of Queen Elizabeth, the spread of English language also happened across the world. And because at the time of Queen Elizabeth, and we all know, we call that age the Renaissance age, or the age of Queen Elizabeth. During that time, or from that time, in the powers, the Britishers, they were ruling more than 90% of the world. So automatically or eventually it has become an important language for everybody across the world. Then why it was important that they should implement that language in India. There are major 3 or 4 reasons for this thing. Why English was introduced? Why they introduced English? First reason was to control the whole of India, because they don't the English people, they didn't know the language of indigenous people, because there was so many vernacular languages and so many dialects and all that. So just to how could they control our country? Just to implement their language inside our country. Okay, so to control the whole of India, it was very essential for Britishers to implement this process. Second thing was to ascertain cultural hegemony. And what does it mean by cultural hegemony? Because they thought about themselves as superior. They have much more celebrated thought process regarding their cultural heritage, regarding their literature, regarding their way of leading life. So they were quite confident, or we can say they were overconfident regarding their own culture. So that's why they wanted to implement English language across our country. Third thing was that because education in the native language did not serve any purpose sorry, for the Indians or the British, and therefore the money was wasted. What they thought, the Britishers thought that whatsoever the Indian kids or the Indian students are learning, and they have to expend a lot on giving them knowledge of their own language. So they thought that it was a waste to waste their own money just for the sake of Indian people. It was not in their norms. So these were the 3 main reasons that why the English was introduced inside our country. And other important thing that is related with the Indian people. And what was that thing? Because across our country there were some people who were more interested in English language rather than their own dialects or own vernaculars. And why they were more interested in English language? Because they wanted to enjoy some perks of the British rules, of the British reign. Okay, and they thought that after learning English, they would be able to join any job, any government job, or they could retain a place that could be very near to Britishers. So this was the greediness of the Indian people, and that's why some people across our country, some people they also want to learn English. So there are basically 4 reasons. First one was to control the whole of India. Second one was to ascertain cultural hegemony, and the third one was that they did not want to waste their money or financial powers between or among the people of India. And the fourth one was that the people of India were also interested to learn English language just to improve their position in the society among Britishers. Then a certain kind of evolution happened through various committees. Okay, and that evolution happened in this way. I have given you in these documents. There are so many documents. The important ones I have given here. First one was Charles Grant's treatise on English education that came in the year 1792. This was the very first document through which English language was introduced in our country. Second one was a major letter written by Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and it has a very historical significance, and it was written in the year 1813. This was the second step. Then the third one, General Committee of Public Instruction. It has also, this committee has also delineated some rules and regulations for the implementation of English across the country, and this committee has given their norms in the year 1823. Then the most important one, Macaulay's Minute on Indian education. It came in the year 1835. And these still today, we some people across our country, or some people in our country, they blame for the bad condition of our education system to Macaulay. Then there was the approval of Lord Banticks. It also happened in the same year in which the Macaulay has introduced his theory in the year 1835. Same thing happened. Both things happened in the same year. Then the next one was C.A. Travellins on the education of the people of India. He also gave his views and opinions in this essay, and it was introduced in the year 1838. Then the next thing was Wood's Dispatch, and it came in 1854. And the final one was the Hunter Commission, that came in 1882, or the Indian Education Commission, 1882. So these are the basic 6 or 7 important documents that helped implementing English inside our country. So we will discuss all these things one by one. First of all, we will discuss about Charles Grant's treatise on English education. So what happened in the year 1792? First of all, we should know that Charles Grant, he was an employee of East India Company. sorry for disturbance. In the year 1792, Charles Grant, he was an employee of East India Company, and he recommended the dissemination of European literature and sciences through the medium of English among the people of India. And he gave the following arguments for support of his theory. So what happened? Charles Grant, he was an employee of East India Company, and automatically he was also, interested with the white man's burden type of theory, and he gave his own arguments in the support of his theory. First argument was that the condition of Indian society is very deplorable and grim. What he acknowledged that the Indian society is very deplorable and grim. And what does it mean? He did not pay attention about the earlier decades of India when there was Muslim dynasty, and there were so many invaders attacked on our country. So that's why it was not the result of 1 or 2 years or 3 years or 10 years. It was the result of gradual deterioration of our country due to the invaders attack. But he presented his idea that why we should introduce English language, because the condition of Indian society is very deplorable and grim. And apart from these things, he also focused on superstitions present in our country, present among the people of Indian land. The people, they are involved in idolatry and immorality. So, and the third one is, he wished that by introducing the English education, it will lessen the distance between the colonial regime and the natives. And if natives get the command over English, then it would be easier to trade with them, and pure loyalty from the natives. Means, all in all, he wanted that anyhow the cultural hegemony of Britishers should continue. It should restore. Okay, so in this treatise, Charles Grant's treatise, it was on English education. It was introduced in the year 1792. In your paper of UGC NET, the year of publication or the year of introduction can be asked. Okay, so this was the first thing. I hope it is clear to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Now, the next thing. The next important thing was Raja Ram Mohan Roy's letter to Lord Amherst. He wrote this letter in the year 1813. And what we think about Raja Ram Mohan Roy? That Ram Mohan Roy, he was a very renowned, social reformer. He did much work for the upliftment of widows of India, and indeed he was a very good social reformer. But look, a different aspect of person we can see here. He wrote a letter to the then administration of Britishers, and he wrote that the British regime should not introduce a Sanskrit college in Calcutta. Okay, and why he did so? We can't say that he was against Indian perception. No, it is clear from his letter that I have written here. On 11th of December 1813, Raja Ram Mohan Roy wrote that the Sanskrit system of education, it would be the best calculated to keep this country in darkness if such had been the policy of the British legislature. Means Raja Ram Mohan Roy was not a firm believer or was not an ardent believer of Sanskrit language of Sanskrit language. Rather, he thought that while introducing the current subjects like mathematics, philosophy, and bioscience and other anatomy, all by introducing such subjects, it will be more helpful for the Indian people rather than to open only a Sanskrit college in Calcutta. So he was firmly against this decision of Britishers. And he said that if you want to improve the condition of the native population, then your object should be to promote a more liberal and enlightened system of instruction. And what is that? Embracing mathematics, natural philosophy, chemistry, anatomy, and with other useful sciences which may be accomplished by employing a few gentlemen of talents and learning educated in Europe, and with the aid of necessary books, instruments, and other apparatus. Means it does not mean that Raja Raman Rai was against the belief of Indian norms. No, he was more interested in the new technological innovations of that time. That's why he insisted to introduce new subjects, new necessary books, new necessary instruments, and other apparatus. And this document of Raja Ram Mohan Roy has been considered one of the most important letter or one of the most important document to establish English language in our country. And he wrote this letter in the year 1813 on 11th of December. In the UGC paper of 2015, there was a question that to whom Raja Ram Mohan Roy wrote the letter in the year 1830, and the letter was written to Lord Amherst. So it is clear. Then we move on towards our third document, and the third document was General Committee of Public Instruction, and it came in the year 1823. Regarding your UGC paper, you should remember their year of implementation or their year of presentation. Okay, so the third one was General Committee of Public Instruction 1823. Here I would like to tell you an interesting thing, that during the first 75 years of English reign, the main official language was Urdu. Neither it was English nor Sanskrit nor any other vernacular language, nothing. All the official things, it was conducted in Urdu language. So that I have written here, that in the pre-1835 days, 1835 days means before the year of 1835, the British educational policy in India was one where the native language was given much more priority over the English language, because till the year 1835, the Britishers thought that we should understand the native language, and only after that we would be able to rule over this country. Okay, so that's why what they did, the official language of the British was Urdu at that time. And what they did, any Britishers or any person from Britain, if they came in our land, what they were encouraged to do, they were encouraged to understand or learn the Sanskrit language, the Arabic language, and Urdu language. Okay, the Britishers, they encouraged the Sanskrit and Arabic as well as Urdu scholars to pursue their distinction in their respective languages. And whosoever came for colonial administration and military purposes, he was also made to learn the Indian language so that they could efficiently rule over the Indians. But what happened in the year 1823, just a decade before Lord Macaulay arrived in India, the General Committee of Public Instruction was formed. Okay, just decade before Lord Macaulay arrived in India, and suddenly two groups originated: Orientalists and Anglicists. The Orientalist group was led by H.T. Princip, and he promoted the teaching of the Oriental subjects in India's vernacular languages. Okay, so H.T. Princip insisted on the learning of vernacular languages, and in 1828 English was first introduced in the College of Delhi. So in the year 1828 we can see that English language was finally introduced in the College of Delhi. So that's how the importance of General Committee of Public Instruction has a very significant role in implementing the English language. Now the next thing is Macaulay. Thomas Macaulay's Minute on Indian Education, it came in the year 1835. And what was the full name of Macaulay? Thomas Babington Macaulay. He was an essayist of the Victorian era. And he arrived in Madras on June 1834. All these years name, it is significant for your NAT purpose. Okay, so you must remember this. So Thomas Babington Macaulay, he was an essayist of the Victorian era, and he arrived in India, in Madras, on June 1834. And what was the main objective of Macaulay? The main objective of Macaulay is, he said, that we must represent to our best to form a class of persons Indian in blood and color and English in taste, opinions in morals and in intellect. Means what Macaulay wished, and he did also, that he has given birth a certain kind of people who were Indian in origin, whose blood were in Indian, their color was also of Indian, but their taste, their likings, and their opinions regarding morality and intellect, it totally differs from the Indian people, and it was more akin to the Britishers. And he asserts, he also has, he was also burdened with white man's burden. I think you know what is the white man's burden. White man's burden is it's a poem of Rudyard Kipling that he wrote just to emphasize the importance of British administration. And Rudyard Kipling thought that these people, the Indian people, are like the cattles, and that's why there must be a shepherd, and the work of this shepherd must be done by the Britishers. So Macaulay was also affected by such type of psychology, or such type of thoughts, and he said that all the literature of the East or the Orient can be compared to a single shelf of a good European library. He said that whatever these indigenous people of India have in the form of literature, it cannot be compared with the vast literature that we have at our home in the European libraries. So this was also the reason that he wished to create such type of people who were more akin to the Britishers' moral and intellect or the ideology. And the second one was, he thought that India does not have any cultural output. Okay, so he did not see any such important things. So this document is also very, very important. Until this date, some people among us still blame Macaulay about, the Babu Raj still present in our country and all in all. Okay, so this is not our topic to discuss. We are discussing only the evolution of English one by one. So this was the next document, Macaulay's Minute on Indian Education. It came in the year 1835. So gradually we moved to the next thing, and the second thing that was happened in the same year in which Macaulay introduced his ideology. What happened that time Lord Bentinck he approved the Macaulay's Minutes 1835 in the year 1835. So what he did on 7th March 1835, Macaulay's recommendations was approved by Lord Bentinck and he passed the following orders. Who passed? Lord Bentinck. And what was the most important thing? The most important thing was that all educational funds should be spent on English education alone. This is the main point of this ideology, of this approval, that we must not waste our funds on the learning of vernacular languages or on the learning of native languages of Indian land. Rather, we should spend our educational funds only on English education. But with this thing, what they did, he said that the Oriental institutions should not be abolished. Means whatever the Oriental institutions present at that time, they should also be remained safe. And the existing teachers and students of these institutions shall continue to receive their salaries and stipend respectively. Okay, so what we can understand here, the important thing that we understand here, that while he was implementing, or the Britishers were implementing the English language, just to create a different sort of group of people, of Indian people, to help Britishers in their rule. And along with this, he also wished to continue that Oriental language that was present inside the schools and the institutions of Indian origin. It should be maintained along with the other things. Why? Because they wanted to create two different forms of people. One that was governed by the people, one that was governed by the Britishers, and another one that helps in them in their rule. Okay, so this was the reason that they did not abolish the Oriental institutions. Okay, then the third one was, no portion of the educational funds shall hereafter be spent on the printing of books in Oriental languages. Okay, no funds should be spent on English education. It should not be abolished, Oriental institutions. And with that also, they want that no educational funds should be spent on the printing of books in Oriental language. If there are no books, then how the people or how the students, they will study? How the teacher will able to guide them? Okay, if there are no books, there is no knowledge. So these are the harmful, points that is present in the Macaulay's Minutes, and these points were approved by Lord Bentinck in the year 1835. Regarding your UGC NET exam, what happened, that they also ask about some major norms of different documents. So we should remember the main documents, main points of the documents always. Now the next thing. The next thing is Sea Travellings on the Education of the People of India, 1838. In the year 1835, Macaulay's Minutes appeared, and in the same year, Lord Bentinck approved the points depicted in the minute. And in the year 1838, there was a person, Charles C. Travellin, and he was brother-in-law T.B. Macaulay was his brother-in-law, Charles E. Travelin. Okay, and Charles E. Travelin was also a firm believer of his of Macaulay's views, and he said that English education should be firmly implemented in India so that the Indians can be converted to lead a sensible life. Means again we see the white man's burden sort of thing, that he thought, Travelin also thought that the Indians are not leading a perfect life, and they are not sensible people, they are not culturally rich, they are not morally sound, and that's why we should teach them how to lead a sensible life, and this teaching can be implemented only in the form of English language. So this is the next point of evolution of English language. Look, gradually what we are seeing, that everybody is insisting to implement language, to teach English language to the indigenous people. But how it affected our independent movement, it would also be clear to you. After some slides I would let you clear. Then in the year 1854, next thing came, there was a person, his name was Woods, and Wood's Dispatch of 1854. In the year 1854, a document came, and the name of the person was Sir Charles Wood, and this document has been considered as the Magna Carta of Indian education. The Magna Carta of Indian education, what is Wood's Dispatch of 1854. So in the year 1854, what happened? The real change happened when the teaching of English in systematic way started from the promulgation of Wood's Dispatch of 1854, which is also known as the Magna Carta of Indian education. So in this document, what Charles Wood recommended? Charles Wood recommended, first thing, that English education will increase moral character in Indians' mind, and thus supply, and thus they will become good civil servants who can be trusted upon. Means he goes one step ahead, and he said that if we teach Indians English education, then this thing will also improve their moral character, and it would help us to in our rule over the Indian people. Means all in all, they want to remain safe. They wanted to remain safe. The Britishers, just they want to create two sections in the society. One section is going to help them in their rule, and another section would be of those people who would be, ruled, who would be ruled over. Okay. Then the next thing was, universities on the model of the London University are established in big cities such as Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. To create such people who can help them in their rule, there must be some universities. Okay, so that's why they introduced universities in Bombay, in Calcutta, and Madras. Okay. At least one government school should be opened in every district. The third point was given by Charles Wood, that in each district there should be one government school, and affiliated private schools should be given grants in aid. For private schools there should be grant given, and the medium of instruction at the primary level was to be vernacular, while at the higher level it would be English. Okay, so at the premier level, it was not English. At the higher level, it must be English. So automatically they have started the segregation at the very beginning point, or from the very beginning point. Now the next thing. In the year 1882, Hunter Commission came. It is also called as the Indian Education Commission. The Hunter Commission is also addressed as the Indian Education Commission. And it was formed on 3rd of February 1882 to evaluate the achievements of Wood's Dispatch of 1854 under William Wilson Hunter in 1882. Means whatever Woods has given in the year 1854 and what we have achieved till now, till the year of 1882, they evaluate that thing under the guidance of William Wilson Hunter in the year 1882. And who was William Wilson Hunter? He was the chairman of the Indian Education Commission in 1882, and in 1886 he was also elected as the Vice Chancellor of Calcutta University. Okay, so this is also important for your UGC NET exam point of view, this detail. Then the next thing is major recommendations are, what were the major recommendations? The major recommendations were preferences was given to literate candidates for government jobs in the lower levels. Abhi tak kya tha till this date? What was the situation or the scenario at the upper level? Only at the upper level, IAS people, the Indian origin, the people who have the Indian origin, who are the Indian people and who have succeeded in IAS exam and or at the higher levels, only those people were given the knowledge of English. But in the Hunter Commission, they introduced English teaching in the government jobs in the lower levels also, and the preferences was given to only literate candidates for government jobs in the lower levels. Then district and municipal boards were interested in the management of primary education under the Local Self-Government Act. So Local Self-Government Act came under the Hunter Commission, and it expressed the ruling of district and municipal boards in the management of primary education. Next thing was the funds were separated for rural and urban areas. Secondary schools were to be established by private parties with funds provided by the government. The funds were separated for rural and urban areas. For the village people, the funds were different, and for the cities, the funds were different. Missionary schools were discouraged. Look, it looks something weird, but this was the point of the main important point of Hunter Commission also is that missionary schools were discouraged and Indian participation was solicited by the British Raj in the private school system. And and why such all things happened? Because when the Woods Dispatch was implemented, the England entered the Victorian era, and Queen Victoria was not much favor to create nuisance or chaos inside those countries where there was the imperialistic reign or rule. So that's why Queen Victoria, under the reign of Queen Victoria, the Hunter Commission, the points or the recommendations of the Hunter Commissions came. Okay, and what she did, she formed a committee with 20 members, and in that committee, Indian educationists were also there, like Syed Mahmood and Anand Mohan Bose. Okay, so look how to rule over someone just while create balance. The ruling party, it focuses to create a certain kind of balance, so there should not be any anarchy or nuisance or chaos happen. So all these recommendations of the Hunter Commissions came in the year 1882, the William Wilson Hunter, and why it was introduced to analyze the recommendations of the Woods Dispatch. The Hunter Commission in the year 1882 came or appeared. Now the next thing. So these were the main guidelines under which the English language implemented day by day or year by year eventually. Okay, then what happened? Because there was a kind of a sort of awakening was also going on among the native people. And Gopal Krishna Gokhale, on 16th of March 1911, he presented a bill in the Legislative Council to make a stronger fight against the government. Till this date, the Indian people, they understood that while implementing English language inside the country, the main motive of Britishers is not to teach the natives to understand English, but to rule over them. That's why there were voices stood against the Britishers' rule. And in this series, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, he presented a bill in the Legislative Council. His bill was based on the Compulsory Education Acts of England of 1870 and 1876. It is also called the Government of India Resolution of 1913 or Gokhale's Bill. So, what happened in the year 1911? He presented a bill, and it went through from 1911 to 1930, and finally in the 1913 it took a permanent shape, and it has been called as the Government of Indian Resolution of 1913 or Gokhale's Bill. Then what happened? The introduction of English language in education system helped the intelligentsia of India found a language which would be much helpful for them to interact with each other during the colonial struggle. So look, the language that was introduced earlier by the Britishers to rule over the Indians, it became an instrument for the communication for the native people to raise their voices. Okay, there was not much communication earlier because there were several vernaculars, there were several dialects, there were several local languages, and that's why if people, there was a lack of conversation, lack of good discussion. But because of the introduction of English language, it helped in some ways, or in so many ways, for the people who participated in the Indian independent movement. Okay, so in a way, if it is the English language where British colonized us, then it is the same language that helped us find common grounds for communication across India, as just I told you. And when the Britishers decided to withdraw state aid to higher English education, people from all states reacted, and the proposal was immediately quashed by Lord Curzon. If you impart some knowledge among the section of some society, then automatically after some time a kind of self-realization appears. Okay, so due to that self-realization, what happened that when the Britishers or the British government took a decision to withdraw the state aid to higher English education institutes, the voices raised against this decision, and the then Lord present at that time, his name was Lord Curzon, he immediately quashed this decision of British government. And at the Shimla conference, these are the very important line. At the Shimla conference, Lord Curzon said about the universities. And what is the opinion? What was his opinion about universities? He said that university should be a place for the dissemination of knowledge and the encouragement of learning, and it further be a human smithy where characters was forged in the furnace of experience and beaten out on the anvil of truth. Okay, so Lord Curzon has transferred significant importance to universities. Okay, by this quotation we can understand. Then what happened? The government appointed the Calcutta University Commission in 1917. Okay, so all these are the one by one amendments happen, and English language introduced in the year 1917. What happened? The chairmanship of Dr. M.E. Sadler, the then Vice Chancellor of the University of Leeds, he appointed the Calcutta University Commission. This commission recognized the importance of the mother tongue only at the primary level and in high schools, and in higher classes they urged the retention of English. Means अभी भी आप देखिए, till this date you can see that they do not they have not paid any importance to the mother tongue till the year 1917. But in the year 1917, the Calcutta University Commission said that it is very important for Indians to learn in their mother tongue at the primary level and in the high schools. Still, they were not they were not firm to introduce mother tongue languages at the higher levels or at the higher universities. But this system of education was opposed by, again, Gopal Krishna Gokhale and Mahatma Gandhi and many other, revolutionists of this time. Okay, then next thing what happened, the Sadler Commission in 1917 suggested establishment of more universities, and in the 5 years from 1916 to 21, 7 more universities, Patna, Mysore, Banaras, Aligarh, Dhaka, Lucknow and Osmania universities were established. Okay, after the recommendation of the Sadler Commission in the year 1917. Question can be asked by the recommendation of which commission following universities have established. Or they can also ask in which year Sadler Commission came. Okay, or they can also ask name the different names of universities that were established in the year after the Sadler Commission's report in the year 1917. Okay, so these were the profound days of Indian independent movement. At Mahatma Gandhi, our father, he said he was against English education, and he gave his views, and I have quoted here. He said English today is studied because of its commercial and so-called political values. Our boys and girls think that without English they cannot get government services. Girls are taught English as a passport to marriage. I know husbands who are sorry that their wives cannot talk to them and their friends in English. I know families in which English is being made the mother tongue. All these are for me signs for our slavery and degradation. Means Mahatma Gandhi was much in the favor of Hindi language or the vernaculars or the local dialects or the local languages, and he said that why the people he understood the main motive of Britishers. Along with Mahatma Gandhi, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and other lawyers also who gave or who went to England to read law and other important subjects. Even those people, when they returned India, they understood the thing that why the Britishers introduced English inside the country just to retain their power across the land, and they wanted to create two sections of society. Again and again I am saying this thing. And he said, Mahatma Gandhi said that because English is serving or is fulfilling the political role or political job or political function, that's why the Britishers are introducing English one by one after making several amendments. Okay, and a certain kind of still it is present in our society. A person who is not able to speak fluently, he has a kind of hesitation. He hesitates a bit to speak in English. Okay, this thing still survives, but Mahatma Gandhi understood this thing. And because somehow English has become, it gives you a certain kind of highness at some level in the some sections of society. Now, now some other thing I would like to, with those things I would like to conclude. Sir Philip Joseph Hartog Committee was appointed by the British Indian government to survey on the growth of education in India, and it submitted its report in 1929. It highlighted the problem of wastage and stagnation in education at the primary level. So Sir Philip Joseph Hartog Committee was appointed in the year and it gave its report in the year 1929, and it was mainly concerned with the problem of wastage and stagnation in education. Then the next thing was sorry, Zakir Hussain Committee on Basic Education. It has also been called as Vardha Scheme of Education. Vardha Scheme of Education, or the Zakir Hussain Committee on Basic Education. It was the first attempt to develop an indigenous scheme of education in British India by Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, so an educational attempt by that has been done by the native of his by the native. And who was the native person? The Mahatma Gandhi. And at the Round Table Conference in London in 1931, he pointed out the ineffectiveness of the system of primary education in India and the alarming low percentage of literacy among Indian people. And in this committee, besides Dr. Zakir Hussain, the other members were Professor K.G. Sagidin, Arya Nayakam, Vinova Bhave, Kaka Kalelkar, J.C. Kumarappa, Kishori Lal, and Professor K.T. Shah. So in the Zakir Hussain Committee, or on the Vardha Scheme of Education, an education system was introduced by the native person, by Mahatma Gandhi, and he was much able to understand the problems that were present at the primary level, at the secondary level, or at the higher level. So he was the right person. Then in the year 1936 and 37, what happened? The government of India invited 2 British experts to come India to prepare a plan for vocational education in the country. Look, eventually, or line by line, or year by year, or simultaneously, an improvement in education system we can see that the certain kind of improvement of education system is appearing day by day till the year 1936 and 37. And the Indian government, he called 2 people. The first one was A. Abbott, and second one was S.H. Wood. And what they did, these 2 persons, they toured in Punjab, Delhi, and UP, and they submitted their report. But that report was neither comprehensive nor successful. But on the basis of this report, the Sargent Report of 1944 was published. Okay, so in the year 1936-37, with the arrival of Abbott and Wood, they submitted their report, and on the basis of their report, the Sargent Report of 1944 was published. Now, what were the steps that the British government took? The British government, some steps were taken by them, but the situation of education was deteriorating, and British government realized that it could no longer remain detached from the problems of education in India. When the British became hopeful of its victory in the World War, the Sargent Plan of Education came, and it came after Sir John Sargent, who was given the task to prepare a comprehensive scheme of education for India in 1944. Okay, so we have reached in the year 1944, and when the Britishers, they were, they understood, or they were hopeful that, okay, now it's our victory in the Second World War. Then at that time, they decided to improve the real condition of real condition of education in India, and along with the implementation of their native tongue or English language. And what happened then after 1944? After independence, the first action of a great significance to be taken by the government of India in the field of education was the appointment of the University Education Commission under the chairmanship of Dr. I.S. Radhakrishnan, a distinguished scholar and former Vice Chancellor of Banaras University, who rose to become the second President of India. Means after independence, the first action that was taken to improve the educational system of India, it was taken by under the chairmanship of Dr. S. Radhakrishnan. So this is this. It means that one by one we have reached towards our culmination, and these were the steps that are significant, or the historical documents in favor of English education in India. I hope the topic is clear, because I have taken only these committees only in the pre-independent India. I hope it is clear to each and everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a really comprehensive and detailed lecture.
Thank you so much.
And
Any questions, if any?
the students can also use the chat box for their doubts.
Yes, why not? Okay. Do we record this, this lecture, such lectures?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We are recording the lecture. Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Can
I think there's a doubt in the chat box, I think.
Yeah, but it is not visible here. Okay. Okay, one question. Why was the British Raj against Christian missionary schools? This is the question. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ajin, this is a question of Ajin Thomas. I would like to say, Ajin, that it's a very good question. That why British Raj, they themselves, they were against their own own type of Christian missionaries and schools and all that, because actually what happened in real life, whenever we rule, or whenever we consider that some party is ruling across the country, in any country, okay, that party wishes to maintain a balance, okay, just to maintain a balance. And that's why they were against Christian missionary schools, because because to maintain that balance, they know that the Christian schools are already there in Britain or in England or in other countries. So just if they want to implement, if they want to introduce English language in the schools of Indian, on the schools of Indian origin, then in that case, what would happen? It would become, very very big in quantity. That okay, the English government is doing, they have come with their missionary schools, and the existence of Indian schools, it is in threat, and so they did not want to create a certain kind of havoc among the people. Okay, so these were the preliminary steps. If you visualize all such things one by one, all such these attempts were very clever attempts that was conducted on their part. Okay, so this is the answer. I think you are satisfied with my answer, Ajay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so shall we leave?
Ma'am, I think there are no more doubts right now.
Okay, no problem.
I would like to invite Sonal Tirki to give the vote of thanks.
Adila, am I audible?
Yes, Sonal.
So, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Department of English, I would like to extend heartfelt gratitude to Pallavi Sharma Goel ma'am. Your lecture today was really insightful and engaging. We are immensely grateful for your precious time and effort that you dedicated for sharing your knowledge with all of us. We are looking forward for implementing and reflecting the valuable lessons that we have learned today. I would also like to thank Department of English and the organizing committee for giving us another opportunity to learn more and also for supporting our goals. Once again, thank you so much, ma'am, for your time and effort. Thank you to all the participants as well.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
Have
you,
a
ma'am.
great day. All
Thank you.
best wishes for your upcoming exam.